Okay, thanks for joining this morning. I'm going to run through the tool called Unifier. It's an Oracle tool. It was purchased many years ago, had been known as Skyer prior to that. And today I'm going to run through the documentation and the different contract management, cost control components of the tool. There is also a facility management component, which can be quite nice, working together with the project controls, document control components. Okay, so there's two different pieces to it. So I'm Nicole Jordan. I'm the founder and CEO of Emerald Associates, and actually today I'm in Montreal, working from my dad's house, where I grew up. So I grew up in Montreal and moved to Calgary many, many years ago, and worked in Toronto as well. So that's sort of the three different locations that I've physically worked, but I've had the chance to work with clients around the world, which has been wonderful. And Emerald is just going into our 29th year, actually this month. So let's talk about what the benefits are for using a tool like Unifier. Okay, so I have a few interesting statistics. They're maybe a touch old now, but I suspect they're still probably pretty reasonable in terms of what's still probably going on. Now, hopefully there's some improvements, but probably still pretty similar. So some of the key things that we find make projects fail or go over budget, if you will, is inefficient execution. Okay, this is the biggest thing. And change control. These are two that I'm going to touch on as I work through the Unifier slides and go through how you use Unifier. So this is an important piece. We want to make sure that our execution is stronger, which leans itself into P6 too, so better planning. But the thing with planning is, of course, once you start executing, you got to be dynamic. You got to be able to change. So Unifier really ties in extremely well on improving your execution capabilities. And once you're in the field and you're doing the work, or even in your engineering component, we know things change, right? For a variety of reasons. So you need to be able to manage those changes very efficiently. You don't want folks installing the wrong equipment, grabbing equipment that shouldn't be for that part of the project, but you're waiting for other equipment, so they start swapping. This is the sort of stuff that causes all sorts of struggles. So Unifier can help you avoid those types of struggles and make sure that your execution is much stronger. Now, another one that was highlighted is regulations. So you want to make sure that you're following regulations and you understand what they are. So having good, strong documentation in advance and good way of looking at that prior to execution is really important. Okay, so these are some very big ones that Unifier can help you with. Now, the other key thing that I've seen over my career, and my first 5 years after I graduated from engineering, I worked on construction claims and disputes projects, and that Emerald has helped many clients do claims and disputes, okay, either defend or put together their cases. Some of the biggest issues are always related to when changes take place, whether they did impact the project delivery, and people not having the right data when they're trying to execute. So this is really where I think once I jump in and start showing you how Unifier works, you're going to see the potential of how collaborative it is. So it's multi-user, multi-project, just like P6, with layers so that you can do portfolio roll-ups by business unit. You can do comparisons from one project to the other on material installations, etc. Okay, so the tool is incredibly robust and incredibly flexible. Now that's a good and bad thing. You have to understand that if you're looking at rolling this out, you've got to go and take some baby steps with the tool and grow into some of the more complicated workflows, etc. Okay, so I'm going to show you that so that we can model the workflows that you need. If you have 3 signatures that are required for certain kinds of documents and another client has 10, you can model those per project. So that's a very important thing. So the workflow to keep documents moving, the collaborative component of this is hugely important because we need to make sure that we've got a good understanding of what we're trying to do on this project. That's always a struggle, right? Especially as things start changing. One of our clients that we worked with, they had so many changes as they were installing cable that the amount of cable that they ended up installing was 3 times the original scope, okay? So this is the kind of thing that becomes a nightmare, and of course that was a claim and a dispute. We want to make sure that our team is consistent, so that touches on the regulatory, okay? We want to make sure people are installing things correctly, they've done the appropriate design, the appropriate inspections are done. So this is a huge thing that we're trying to manage, and Unifier will help you with. And as I've been touching on over and over again, the change control, hugely important. Without it, you're not going to succeed on your project unless there are no changes, which is pretty darn rare. And then making sure you've got the paperwork, okay? So we were talking to a client the other day who was saying that they're having struggles giving the as-built to the owner to get the final payments. So these are the sorts of things that you need to be on top of. Okay. Now we don't do drawings explicitly in Unifier, but managing those drawings and managing that the as-built packages have been done, Unifier would be able to help you with that. Okay. And the drawings are essentially attached in, bundled up, and you can use Unifier as the way to feed that through. And then the other big benefit is with Unifier, you can build your own business processes. They're called, you're going to hear me use the word module or BP, okay? You can build your own documents. So if you need something, because a new requirement, a new rule came up in your location, you can create business processes or modules very easily in Unifier. So within maybe a few hours even, depending on what the requirement is, you can have something to fill a gap on your business process. And I think this is the biggest benefit that you're going to see from Unifier is how flexible the modules are. Okay, and I'm going to show you a variety of different modules in here, some of which we have built from scratch to give you the idea of the types of things that you can build. Okay, so this is a huge benefit of Unifier, one that I don't think you can get pretty much in any other software that readily. And because the tool has been built for our industry, okay, so for projects, for construction, for infrastructure, buildings, they've already thought about the types of things that we tackle on a day-to-day basis in our space. So the tool is very easy to work with to frame out a new process. Okay, so if you need an inspection sheet, let's say your team is struggling with doing inspections, documenting them, you can create an inspection sheet as a module. Okay, not some paper thing that just stands alone by itself, not some Microsoft Teams form that stands by itself. This lets you build it quickly and then have it interact with all the other modules that you've already got. So you could hook it to the contract, so you can, or to a vendor, so you can see all the inspections that a particular contract has had and whether they're passing and failing. Okay, so that's the key benefit, is you can just bundle it right into what you're already doing and create new modules very, very easily. Okay, if they're cost related, they are take a little longer to build because you've got to fit it into the cost framework. But still, within a day, you can have a new business process put together. Okay, so those are really some of the key benefits that I would say you should be able to achieve with a tool like this. So really, some of the improvements that some of the clients have given feedback to Oracle on was better delivery duration, which of course is hugely important. If you can save even one day on your project, that could be thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars right there. If you're a contractor, margin is a big thing. That's how you make profit and keep your business going. And if your margin is being eroded because you're not sure on changes, you're answering questions very slowly, or questions are not getting answered by the client, which is delaying your time on the project, these things really can erode your margin. So you want to manage that. That's a huge thing. And of course, staying away from disputes. I worked on a project, I kid you not, the claim and the dispute cost more than the project. So that is nuts, and that's what we want to avoid. We want to avoid getting into those legal battles and having such struggles. It really detracts not only from the project, but from your business. Okay, so let me explain quickly how Unifier works, and then I'm going to jump in and start showing you the tool live. So I mentioned it's multi-project, multi-user. The layers that I mentioned, okay, so if you know anything about P6, you know we have the idea of Enterprise Project Structure, EPS. Basically, it's just a layer of the projects. So we have the same concept in Unifier. The words are just a bit different. We have the idea of a company, and then we have shells. And shells could be per business unit. It could be geographical locations, so that you might have divisions in Canada, in Europe, in Asia, in Australia, and those are sort of run as different companies. So those could be shells, and then they could be merged up to the company level. Then we have the idea of projects. And within the projects, we can have gates that you work through and phases of the project. So the benefit of using phases and gates, it actually turns modules on and off. Okay, so if you're in the preliminary design phase of your project, you only need certain modules. You don't need every single module. You don't probably need an inspection module as an example. You probably don't need an inventory module turned on. So those would only turn on as you hit the different phases. So it's highly configurable to make it easy to work with. Then we have the data that we put in. So the fields that you're going to want to use inside of the system. Again, those can be configured. So we can make pick lists, dates, lists that are layered lists, so like a hierarchy, that work together. So something like a province in Canada or a city in Canada can be merged under the province. Okay, so the pick lists can be that flexible and dynamic. So very configurable. And then the screens, what you actually see on the screen can be different for different types of users. Okay, so if I'm a financial approver and one of my colleagues is a site person, we don't need to see the same things for a daily log, right? Or what I'm going to call a LEM, labor, equipment, material, subcontractor, so LEMs. I'm going to show you that. I don't necessarily need to see the same thing because I need to see the financial aspects. I don't necessarily need to see the site aspects, okay? So the screens are configurable as are the workflows, the behaviors, calculations. These are out of the box, ready to have this kind of behaviors put in there, validations, all out of the box starting points. Okay. You can add custom programming too during the workflows. So the workflows are configurable as well. So we can get very elaborate, as in this example here, with multiple steps, with different decision points. And when you have those different decision points, you can have different screens going along with it. So highly, highly configurable in terms of the workflows. Okay. And then the result of that is we want to make sure that the person looking at the data has what they need to be able to move things along quickly in the process. That's really the whole point. If you make someone have to spend 2 hours on a document that they should have been able to look at in 10 minutes, the chances of them looking at it go down. So you want to make sure you're targeting the data to the right people at the right time. Okay, so that's an overview of Unifier, and what we're going to do now is I'm going to jump in and I'm actually going to show you the tool in action. Okay, so let me go ahead and jump over to Unifier. So let's start, let me try and explain sort of what you're seeing on the screen. Okay, so first and foremost, we have our project and shell navigation here at the top. We then have all the modules or business processes on the left. So that's our main navigation. So I'm starting here at the top with the company level. So that's the overall. And as a user, not necessarily everyone has access to the overall, but that's the starting point. So this is just showing me some basic statistics of what's inside this system. That's what we're seeing here. Now, we could also have a variety of different graphics, so dashboards as well, okay? Now, some of the data that you would put together in Unifier, you need it at the company level, okay? So for example, a cost sheet, a cost roll-up, or a funding sheet. So depending on your role, okay, if you're an owner organization, you may be wanting to see funding that you're giving out to the different projects. If you're a government organization, you may get funding that you're giving out, but you may also be receiving funding from other levels of government or perhaps outside third-party bodies like charities, or some of your projects might be P3 projects, so private-public partnering type projects. So we have the ability to do funding as well as cost, so seeing what we're spending. So this is a cost sheet that I'm showing you right now, and these are all the projects inside the database, and I'm seeing what was our budget, what's our commitments, so what have we actually awarded for contracts, and that's not necessarily the same, right? Do we have any upcoming commitments? Do we have changes that are coming through? So you have a summary here at the corporate level of everything going on down in the projects, okay? And again, if you want to, you could layer that, okay? So perhaps I need a business unit layer inside of here. So that's also possible. So you can see that this sheet is grayed out. It's just a repository of the information. It's not where you're creating the information. So this is being fed automatically from the projects, okay? So from my SAGP project, from my Anchorage project, it's automatically coming into this sheet, and I can look at some of the details by clicking through. And then I can see the specifics of what's going on that project. Okay. So I could see, I can hold different estimates. I can hold bidding information, budgets, as you saw a minute ago, commitments, actuals, etc. Okay, so this sheet is now in one project. And again, I can navigate into the details. Okay, so each one of these, I can get into more details and see what's going on. Where's this amount coming from? It could be from multiple purchase orders or individual purchase orders, as in this example. Okay, so Unifier has a very strong cost control component to it. This is at the project, this is at the corporate level. Now it's all being fed from the detailed level. So another thing that we often do at the corporate level is we want to understand certain purchases. Some purchases may be done on blanket purchase orders. Some might be done on master service agreements. Okay, so I know we have master service agreements with some of our clients, and the different departments can call us directly and spend that money. And then there's just a accounting function internally to cross balance our charges back. Okay, so this lets us do that. This lets us do blanket purchase orders. In this example, for structural steel. So I'm going out and I'm purchasing this structural steel. And in this example, I'm buying 200,000 pounds. And then I'm releasing those structural steel components to these different projects. Okay. Here's the project number here. So in this example, they were all released to the same project, but it could have been different projects that started to use up those. Okay, so this is super handy. Many of our clients, again, depending on their function, especially if they're an owner client project, or sorry, an owner type business, they may do long lead items that they purchase in bulk, and then they divvy them out to the facilities. Okay, so this allows us to do that. Another thing that you may do at the corporate level is you may want to have a list of standard items that you want to have a fixed rate, a fixed purchasing agreement with your vendors, and then those can be purchased into the project. Okay, so this is a master items list where we have split, let me open one of these up, where we have split the amount into, let's show you here, different components. So I've got a labor component, I've got equipment component, material, and unit cost. Okay, so you can create this tracking system however you wish, and then you start to award bid items against them. And this can be used on any project. Okay, so that's something that's quite handy to having at a master level. And then the last thing at a master level that is pretty common and very, very effective here is we have corporate documents. So they generally would be things like standards, so safety manuals, HR, looks like it's empty here, HR manuals, procedural manuals, things like how to do welding, for example, could be a good document. By putting it at the corporate level, it becomes available to the project level, and then you can make sure that it's being sent out and you're using the most up-to-date document. Okay. So again, the layered concept is very strong inside a Unifier, which makes it easier to manage your documents. Now, the next level would be a business unit level, and it's similar to the corporate level. You're just deciding you're going to have certain projects that are for this business unit, and then you can have the roll-ups. So the roll-ups would be similar, work in a similar way. And you can also start to have different dashboards, okay, that you can create. And then these can be used right within Unifier. So some of our clients also take the data and put it out to their standard corporate reporting. So if you use Tableau or Power BI or SAP Analytics, etc., this data can be fed into those systems as well. So you have both options for different dashboarding. Now the project level is where we'll spend the rest of the time here for this webinar to show you how you can create different types of business processes, different modules, and then those modules, of course, help you run the project. That's the key here. So one of the ones I'm going to show you is, because it's a good one for food for thought, is our labor, equipment, and materials subcontractor module. So LENS for short. And this dashboard is being fed from those LENS. Okay, so we're looking at labor, how many equipment, what have we got equipment related? So it could be by the contract. How are we doing in terms of our hours that are being used on the project, and are they double time, overtime, regular time, custom time? So that just lets you put in a different factor, a different rate factor, and how are we doing, okay? And then you can see sort of the percentage. And of course, you don't want the overtime to be such a huge percentage of your project. If your overtime you've got an imbalance, right? The imbalance is either because you don't have enough people, you haven't resourced the right roles perhaps, or you might have another problem, at the site. Maybe the site, there's a lot of absenteeism perhaps, which is a sign of a bigger problem on your project, okay? So it could be a variety of things, but the point is you want to be able to track that every single day and do something about it as soon as you see a problem, okay? If you see weeks and weeks of major overtime, well, that's going to hit your bottom line, obviously. Plus, it's going to tell you you're going to have bigger problems at that job site, right? People are going to start quitting. People are going to start not showing up, and you're going to have bigger problems. So you need to be monitoring that. That's a very, very important one. Okay, so let me touch on how you get the data into the system to actually be able to use it and see this sort of information. So everything starts with vendors. So I'll just touch on the vendors very quickly because it's a simple one, but I think everyone understands the concept of a vendor. Now, we usually create the vendors at the corporate level or the business unit level, and then you share those out. Okay, so I'm going to just look at that real quick. So let's look at a vendor data set. Okay, very simple, nothing too complicated here. Now, one of the things that we added to the system, so it's configurable, is we added some ratings, some scoring. Okay, so every time that CKK Drilling does a subcontract for us, we score them, and this is their total score. So that's an important thing when you're inviting people for the next bid. If their scoring is weak, you either need to address that, or you may choose not to invite them to the bid. Okay, so this is a very simple module, but we've added some key things that are important in our business, right? Is we need to understand where they're at. Now, nothing very exciting to see in these windows. They're just data entry windows, but this is sort of what the look and feel of the tool is. So we have data entry fields. You can see we've got a variety of different options, pick lists, free form. Some of these are controlled, right? They're being fed either from another system or whatnot. So very, very basic. In this example, we've got some banking information, insurance information, financial rating. Okay, so these are these ratings that I talked about that we can add to the system. And they can also be fed from the contracts and the scoring on the contracts. Okay, so this is very configurable. And you can see that we can also have multiple tabs. So in this case, we've got a bunch of different key players from that company. We can have some information about their roles, the roles that they've got within the company, etc. Okay, so this whole module has been highly configured to add different things that our clients have asked for. Now, once you've got the vendors, of course, you're going to want to give them contracts. Now, if you're an engineering company, if you're a contractor, those are usually commitment contracts. They're either contracts or purchase orders. Now, usually you don't start awarding any of those until you've got a contract with the owner. So we usually start with what we would call a budget, okay? And we would get a budget, and in this example, it's called a budget approval, okay? But you can call it whatever you want. So everything you're seeing on the screen can be changed to match your particular requirements. So the contract is usually first with the owner. Now in this example, we split it into two different budgets. So one for 2014, one for 2013, okay? So just depending on how your project goes, it could just be one, which would be totally fine. We just put two in this example. So I'll just pop one open. So when we have the contract, okay, so again, we've got some information. We can have many fields explaining a variety of things, but the big important piece, of course, is the cost breakdown. Now, the cost breakdown can be unit rate or lump sum, so you can see both. So in this case, we've got quantities, 15 at 100,000 for different land components that we're going out to acquire, and then some of these are lump sum items. Now you can see these items have a cost code against them. Okay, so this is how they're landing in that master cost worksheet. Okay, now as I mentioned, the cost worksheet is per project, and then you can push it up to the corporate level, which is where we started. So once we've got our budget, we're starting to build out the cost sheet. Okay, so let's just go back to that for a second. And I think we have, let's just get a line item that we want to look at. So let's look at this drilling, EOC drilling 30 in the cost sheet. Okay, so it's here, EOC drilling right here. So we have our estimates. So I wasn't showing you estimates, but we can manage estimates just the same way as we manage the budget. And the budget has the amounts that we were just looking at. So this was the one we were just looking at. And in this case, drilling had two different splits, okay, two different line items. So that gets there automatically. So again, you can see these are grayed out, meaning we're not editing them straight in the worksheet. If that's the way you want to manage certain pieces, you could, if you don't create documents, you just want to manually create a column, you could. But of course, the more benefit comes from creating the documents and having them automatically flow to the cost sheet. Now, once we have some budget approved from either from our management or from our client, if we're a contractor, we're going to start spending money. So that's where we start to do procurement. Now, procurement, of course, comes from engineering documents. Okay, so we have some drawings, we have documents, and the designs can be documented and then changed. So we have changes that can take place on them. Okay, so that's where we start to actually have drawings. And in this case, the drawings should be reviewed and approved. You can see that some of these have not been approved, and that's what this little red calendar is letting us know, is we're late on getting these reviewed and approved. So there was a due date. There was a due date put in somewhere along the way. And these designs have not been reviewed. So you would want to get that done. And this is the most detailed sort of document, and we're waiting for some documents to be added up to this particular review. So we can grab items. I think this one's locked down. We can grab items from our desktop. So normally what our clients do is they have a portal with some shared folders for uploading, and those documents are then attached in to the different design documents and then reviewed using the system. Okay, so I'll show you that in a bit more detail. And we can do that on any document inside the system. So we always have a workflow. We always have attachments. Okay, so those are available everywhere inside of Unifier. Okay, so that can be on a design package. It could also be on procurement items. So let's go ahead and look at contracts. So we're going out and we're going to purchase something. Okay, now we have a bidding module inside the system. So if you have a purchase request, you can also do a bid. Once you do the bid and you award, it will automatically create perhaps a purchase order, perhaps a contract. Okay, so it depends on the way you're going to use the system. So that's another really wonderful thing inside of Unifier. We can have documents that work with one another automatically, or piggyback on one another is maybe another way to say it, and build upon one another automatically. Okay, so if I'm not the person doing the bidding, but I am the person that approves a request to go and do the bid, I don't need to see this bidding module at all. But I might be the person who's seeing the request to do a bid. Okay, so someone creates a request because they need to go buy, what's this in this example, doors? Yeah, they need to go buy some doors. So they get the information of what they want to go buy. And I can open up that document. Oh, it looks like maybe that one's not opening. So it's probably a broken link. Let me see if I got another one that will work. Let's just see. That's very strange that it's not opening. It should. I'm not sure what's gone wrong here, but it would open up the Excel file. And then I can bundle all that together for this request. And the request, because I'm going out to buy something, I want to know how many, and I might not know the price, but I usually should have some idea of the price. Okay, so in this example, we didn't put in the dollar amount, but normally you probably would. And then you would be able to see who you want to go and ask to do the bid. And in this case, we went out to bid for 2 companies, and it looks like they both submitted. Okay, they may not have, but both looks like they did submit, which was good. And then I can go and see what they put in. I can see if they put any exceptions, put any notes in here, and I can see what their price was. Okay, so this is their price for those units. And then again, I can have attachments at the overall level. Here's their certificate that they provided and some vendor information. Okay, so this, if I'm good with it, I can approve it and create a contract off of it. This one's already been done, so I can see that we've already awarded that. So we've already given contract for the doors for this. So it's either a purchase order or a contract, okay? So you define that and it automatically pushes to the appropriate module. And this looks like the one that it goes with. So in this example, it was a purchase order. So the purchase order will have the line items. You can see that looks like I added a line item. That could be during the negotiation. I've changed what we're bidding. Could be a variety of reasons. And then we can see what's going on here. The purchase order itself, same sort of thing. These are all just basic fields that we've gathered and we've got the total. And of course, I didn't mention it explicitly, but Unifier does allow you to do multiple currencies. Okay, so if your project is, let's say in Canada, but you're buying things from other parts of the world, you can document the currency and exchange rates. Now, we can see the workflow on this purchase order. So simple, this is a simple one. And the rule of thumb is to try and keep it simple, and then only in certain circumstances make it maybe a bit more elaborate. But don't try and solve every potential workflow type of situation. Keep them simple. So we had create, send for approval. We might have to revise, resubmit, and then approve. So very simple. We may also have a cancellation. So we have a few different ways that we could come to the termination state. Okay. Now we can see the workflow. We can see whether we missed any steps. And in this case, because it's a demo environment, of course, we just did the simple steps. Now, the tool audits everything. That's done. Okay, so if edits are done, different workflows are done, you see that. You see when, you see what, and you see who did it. Okay, so you can see what changed. So this is very important. So the tool does have a full audit log. Now, once we give out some work, we're expecting work to be performed. So in the area we work frequently in oil and gas, we have often the requirement to have daily logs of what's occurred on the job site, and those logs need to be signed off every single day. So the idea of the accrued work is very important, especially if you're doing lots of time and materials type work. If you're doing lump sum, managing your own accrued work, if you're a contractor, is very important. Okay, so the idea of lens is hugely important for you to be able to track what is going on. So on this contract, so you can see in this example, I have a lot more tabs than on the purchase order. So we're rolling up important documents that we record as the project goes on. Okay, so let's touch on those, and I will touch on the lens as well. So we have daily records of requests for information. So simple documents like an RFI. So I'm in the field, I'm performing work, and something comes up. In this case, a field condition, or an unforeseen condition, or I'm asked to do cost cutting a cost-cutting measure, okay? So lots of things can occur, and often the starting document might be a site instruction or a request for information, okay? Any documents can be fed into a window like this. So this is a summary of a module inside of here. Now, we have submittals. So this contractor was supposed to submit things. So they might have to submit shop drawings. They might have to put samples. They might have to put their schedule together and submit them. Okay, so this lets us have a running list of everything that they're supposed to submit so we can see it at our fingertips. Okay, now again, this is coming from a module below, or I can create them here and it puts them in the module. So we can work many different ways here inside of Unifier. So these are all roll-ups of something that's going on in the detailed modules, okay? So I can see whether they have any change orders coming up. It looks like there's one. It looks like they might have some approved change orders. Yeah, there's 3. So these, of course, are changing their contract value. All right, so we can see that. Right in this master sheet. So I just told you, but I didn't show you, that the RFIs changes, these are all documents inside of here. So change orders, RFIs, so those documents I was referencing are coming from this module. So the person who's looking at RFIs, creating them, answering them, they may never need to go look at the contract. So this could be their module that they work in, okay? Maybe that's all they work in, so they don't have to see all the rest of these other modules. So the security profile that you create will control and dictate the different tree on the left. So here are some of those RFIs, and this is where you would put them in. So we could look at this one as an example. So there's something about poor soils. The RFI is created. It usually has a due date, and that due date can be predefined. Maybe your contract says all RFIs will be responded to within 3 days, something along those lines. Let's just try one more. It seems to me that for some reason my attachments aren't opening. Oh, here we go. We got this one to work. Okay, so in this example, it's just a picture. It could have a markup on it, right? So there could be a variety of different things in your attachments. So, and the attachments can have records on them. You can do a find, okay? You can do a download of the whole bundle. So there's a variety of different things you can do, and you can do markups on them as well. So we have integration out of the box, integration to Bluebeam, and there's automatic integration to AutoView. So that's an Oracle tool which lets you actually do the markups. Okay, let me just see if this is working. And I can just give you a quick flavor of the marking up. Okay, so AutoView has its own markup capability, and you can do drawing on it, you can do measuring on it, and you can do a variety of different things inside of AutoView. So this is bundled inside the software, and those markups will be recorded here as well. So in terms of daily documentation of progress, as I mentioned, we built this module that I'll just touch on, and it's called LEMS. So we have a daily log of what's going on the job site. So the daily log includes the labor. Let me just make this bigger. It includes the equipment, used. It includes the materials, and it includes, in this case, disbursements. So this module is one that we built from scratch. Now this module lets us record the P6 activity that each one of these workers, site workers in this example, did, and we can have different categorizations on them. Sorry, this thing keeps readjusting on my screen here. So let me just show you the types of things that you can do. So we have what they worked on, we have how many hours were regular time, how many hours were overtime. So in this example, there's none. Double time, triple time, and we talked about that custom time. Okay, so those are all able to be in the system. We have the rates, and these rates are master rates that are coming from pick lists that we upload from Excel. Okay, so you can actually have a different rate sheet every day if you want. Totally up to you how elaborate you want it to be and managing this. So the key thing here is we know what our total spend is at the end of the day, which is hugely important. And if we run a report, we can see the spend on each activity. We can do that by role, we can do that by employee, we can do it by any of the tagging that we have here. So whether it's a direct cost or indirect cost, etc. Okay. Now, why do we care about that? Well, we care about that because we want to make sure we know where we're at. Let me look at equipment real quick. So the equipment is the same sort of thing. So we're writing what kind of equipment, and the same sort of thing. We're doing who's in charge, who worked with that equipment or on that equipment, and what activity does it get charged against. So we're tracking to the activity in a very simple manner. Now, these sheets can be copied from day to day and then edited. So that's another way you could do it, to keep the data entry more manageable. Okay. Now, why is that so important? Well, we need to keep track of our materials. We need to know what's being installed. We need to understand our daily cost. If you don't have that, it's very easy for the project to get off track very quickly. Okay. Now this will give you your accrued value up to, right up to the day. And then you can have that auto pull into your invoicing so that you can total it up and invoice. Okay. Now, if you're working on a lump sum job, you still want to do this tracking. But then what you do for your invoicing is you put a % complete against it. Okay, so that's the extra piece if you're doing lump sum work. Now those lens automatically, when they're approved, go to the labor summary. So it's an automatic thing that occurs. Let me just show you. And we can automatically see all the work that each one of these people did on the job site. Okay, so we have the day, we have the total cost, we have the total hours. Now this can feed automatically to your safety tracking, your percents on the incidents, etc. If you marry it up with the incident log. Okay, so this is a key thing inside a Unifier. So you try and isolate the data entry, and then you ripple the data to wherever else you need. And the tool has those capabilities inside of it automatically. Now you have to set it up. So there is configuration. But the idea of it is there. It's in the way the platform's structured, that you can have calculations from one module pushed to another. So this is where the power of this software really sits. It's in the smarts that you put into it. So your data entry is minimized, but the data becomes readily available. Okay, so then you can create those different labor graphics like I showed you at the beginning. And then you can do safety graphics. You can do different reports on the different team members that you've got, etc. Okay, so it's all happening automatically. That's the big thing. That's the big thing. Okay, what else? I mean, there's, as you can see, we're just about out of time, and I haven't touched on many aspects, but I'm hoping you're getting the feel for the tool. That's really about all I could do in an hour, is to give you a bit of the feel for the tool. We have many, many modules. Some are out of the box and some we've changed. Okay, so incidents reports, I mentioned, you can cross those. Okay, I don't have a name this project. Submittals with a submittal register, those are pretty much out of the box. We've got many different modules inside of here. Let's see what else might be interesting. Safety inspections, monthly updates, invoices, commissioning, punch lists, warranties. We've got many, and you can create your own. Okay, so the idea of today was just to give you a bit of a flavor of what Unifier looks like, how you could potentially use it, the sorts of things that it's got. But it is really quite a nice tool. It can do your tracking of documentation as well. Not just costing, but the costing is very strong. So this really could be a one-stop shop for you. Okay, you wouldn't have to have separate document control, separate cost control, and you can make this talk to your accounting systems with an integration. Okay, so these are all things that you can do with the system. As you're working in here, it's tracking your tasks, anything that you've started but you haven't finished, so your drafts, so things that you started to create. So I created a transmittal, I created a purchase order amendment, I created an incident report. So of course the drafts are supposed to be fairly empty, and your tasks are things that you need to touch. So you might be an approver. Someone might have sent me something here. So you can see here that some I'm supposed to analyze and award it, approve it. I'm supposed to revise it. So this also is should be empty. Okay, I'm trying to keep that empty. And whether I have any notifications. So something that's due, it might not be me that's needing to touch it. Okay, but it's due, it's overdue. So I'm being notified. So I can talk to my team and say, hey, we've got a few things outstanding. So the system is very good at trying to keep you on top of things, and it's collaborative. Okay, so meaning multi-users, and security can control what people are seeing. Okay, so if I have an outside user that only needs to see 5 fields, I can deploy just 5 fields for their screen. So highly configurable, which makes this an excellent tool to keep you out of trouble, not getting into claims and disputes, stay ahead of questions, make sure your site instructions are being adhered to, and make sure any RFIs are coming through, you are staying on top of. Okay, so we went through that. It's integrated to P6 as well. So the activity IDs are really your bread and butter between the two systems, and that will allow you to push hours, percent completes, etc., back and forth. So really some of the benefits here, teamwork and the easy use. So it is simple to use. Deploying it needs some smarts, okay? So you don't just plug and play this system. You need to think about, are the fields what we need? Are the pick lists what we need? Are the workflows what we need, okay? So it is a project to roll it out. But once you do it, the easy use is very, very good. Your accuracy and visibility, of course, become very high. And then you can push different data out to different systems for additional reporting, okay? So Once we've got that, we've got better control. Really, it is best in class. And the delivery of your projects should be up significantly, okay? And a lot less rework. Rework is a big nightmare on projects. If you install something and it's wrong, you didn't have the right drawing, for example, that's a big cause of loss of revenue, loss of margin. Okay, now I don't see any questions right now, and so I'll start wrapping up. Now, this is just one tool that we've worked with over the years. We've been Primavera partner for many, many years, so we worked with contract management for a very long time. Unfortunately, they stopped supporting it. It's mostly because the technology was starting to become difficult to continue with. And that's when they went out and bought Unifier. And they've also more recently acquired Acconnect. So these are the two real tools that are out there now from Oracle. I would say Unifier is very much designed to be a corporate tool with corporate strategies and structures for standardization. Acconnect, I would say the sweet spot was much more for one project, get all the users into that project as fast as you can, and start documenting, okay? I would say it's not as strong on the cost control. It's not as strong if you want to add your own business processes, okay? So that was never its sweet spot, never really its main objective. Unifier fits a different criteria, okay? So depending on your need, one of the two tools should help fulfill the need. Now, not only do we roll out the software tools, we also have had programmers on our team for 29 years, as I mentioned. And so we've got a lot of integration capability, a huge amount of integration capability, automations, and we've got a lot of add-ons. Okay, so for Unifier, we've got an Excel uploader add-on, we've got a migrator from contract management, we've got archiving tools for Unifier, and of course we've got integration capability. Okay, so if any of those things are needs, reach out, and always check back on our webinar page, because we've got different webinars on the go. If there's a module that you want to see closer, or something that you want to understand better on this tool, let me know. Let me know if you want to follow up, okay? And then that's the best way to stay in touch. All right, I think I'll stop the recording.